Welcome to Daily News Simplified, an answer to what, why, and how of newspaper reading. Today, we are going to discuss the New Delhi edition of the Hindu newspaper dated 11th March 2019. The news to be discussed has been presented on the screen, and timestamping for the same has been provided in the description box below. So let's start our today's discussion. The first news for the day appears on page number 1. It says Lok Sabha polls from April 11 to May 19. Now this particular news is with respect to yesterday's press conference of the Chief Election Commissioner with respect to the upcoming Lok Sabha election of 2019, where the Chief Election Commissioner has announced that the upcoming general election of 2019 will be held in 7 phases along with assembly election in 4 states, namely Andhra Pradesh, Arunachal Pradesh, Orissa and Sikkim. Now this particular news becomes extremely important from our examination perspective, as we know that previously various questions not only on election commission but also on the entire conduct of election, specifically with respect to VVPAT, has been asked by UPSC. So on this note, let us discuss the important highlight of the press conference of Chief Election Commissioner. Now this particular news in your prelims examination becomes a part of Indian polity and governance, and in mains it gets covered under GS paper 2. Now as mentioned, various questions in the year 2017 has been asked by UPSC on elections. Now even in the mains examination, questions were asked in 2018 as well as in 2017. In 2018, the question was with respect to the use of electronic voting machine and the challenges before Election Commission to ensure trustworthiness of elections in India. Whereas in 2017, the question was asked with respect to enhancing the quality of democracy in India. So, the election is to be scheduled around April to May, and your examination will be conducted on 2nd of June. So, on this note, every information with respect to the election and its conduct becomes very important from your prelims perspective. First of all, let us go through the highlight of yesterday's press conference, and then we'll come back and try to solve each of these questions. Now, before starting the highlights, you must know about Article 83 Clause 2, because it mentions about the tenure of Lok Sabha. It says that the House of People, that is Lok Sabha, unless sooner dissolved, shall continue for 5 years from the date appointed for its first meeting, and the expiration of this period of 5 years shall operate as a dissolution of the House. So it basically means that the Lok Sabha automatically dissolves after every 5 years. Further, the article also mentions that this said period of 5 years may be extended by Parliament by law while a proclamation of emergency is in operation, and it provides for 2 time periods, that is a period not exceeding 1 year at a time and not extending a period of 6 months after the proclamation has ceased to operate. So after the proclamation has ceased to operate, elections must be conducted within the period of 6 months. This particular information on Article 83 Clause 2 becomes extremely important from your prelims perspective, as statement-based question on the tenure of Lok Sabha may be asked in your upcoming examination. So with this upcoming general election, we will be moving towards the 17th Lok Sabha, as the 5-year term of this 16th Lok Sabha will expire on 3rd June 2019. So a new government has to be constituted prior to this date of 3rd June 2019. And the press note of the Election Commission mentions that credible elections conducted at regular prescribed intervals are the very soul of any democratic system. Now this statement is very important because this statement can form a part of your mains question as well. For example, they can say that credible elections conducted at regular and prescribed intervals are the very soul of any democratic system. Discuss. So this particular statement becomes very important from your mains point of view. Moving further, the press note mentioned about Article 24, where it said that it bestows the Election Commission relevant powers, duties and functions with respect to conduct of elections. And along with this, the Election Commission is also empowered under Section 14 of the Representation of People Act 1951. Now, as you can see in your syllabus, salient features of Representation of People's Act is a part of your syllabus in your mains examination. Hence, on this note, that point becomes very important as well. As it says that Section 14 of RPA 1951 provides for the conduct of elections to constitute a new Lok Sabha before the expiry of its current term. So, the Constitution of India, along with the Representation of People Act 1951, gives the Election Commission sufficient power to conduct free, fair, and peaceful election in the country. Now, another important aspect which becomes important for us to know from examination perspective is about Model Code of Conduct, and it was specifically mentioned in yesterday's press conference that the Model Code of Conduct applies immediately after the press conference of the Election Commission of India. So it says that consequent on the announcement of the schedule for the general election through press note, the Model Code of Conduct for the guidance of political parties and candidates has come into operation with immediate effect from yesterday in the entire country. So this becomes extremely important from your prelims perspective, as question or statements based question on Model Code of Conduct can be asked in your upcoming exams. So please remember that the Model Code of Conduct has become applicable since yesterday after the Election Commission of India's press conference with respect to the schedule of election in India. Now there are four states, namely Andhra Pradesh, Arunachal Pradesh, Sikkim and Orissa, where state assembly elections will take place along with the Lok Sabha election. So these poll-bound states have also been directed to ensure that no misuse of official machinery or position is done during the period of Model Code of Conduct. This again becomes a significant direction from the Election Commission to these poll-bound states. Further, the Commission has also issued instruction for swift, effective and stringent action for enforcement of Model Code of Conduct, where it says that during the first 72 hours of announcement of election schedule and also in the last 72 hours prior to close of polls, there would be strict vigilance and strict enforcement of Model Code of Conduct. So this again becomes important with respect to your Model Code of Conduct. So all these can be asked as a statement based questions in your examination. So please remember these facts with respect to Model Code of Conduct. Now another important aspect which you must know with respect to the election is with respect to delimitation. As you know that the Delimitation Commission is set up to ensure the parliamentary constituencies including its area. So this election will be held on the basis of parliamentary constituencies as contained in the Delimitation of Parliamentary and Assembly Constituencies Order of 2008. This becomes very important from your prelims perspective. So effectively there is no change in the extent and status of any parliamentary constituency after general election to Lok Sabha 2009. So the parliamentary constituencies and their respective area and boundaries remain the same what was there for Lok Sabha 2009. Now another important aspect is that total number of parliamentary constituencies allotted to different states as well as union territories, including the seats for scheduled caste and scheduled tribe, will also remain the same. So seats allotted to SC and ST will remain the same as what it was in the previous Lok Sabha. And on the same note, assembly elections for the state of Arunachal, Orissa and Sikkim shall be held as per the Delimitation Order of 2008. Now another important point highlighted in the press note is with respect to the affidavit by candidates. Now as we have seen in the previous DNS that last 5 years of income tax returns of the candidate along with his spouse and dependents shall also be furnished in the affidavit. Apart from that, they also have to furnish any assets in the offshore accounts, not only of themselves but also of their dependents and also of their spouse. So on this note, let's go through what the press note of the Election Commission has to highlight with respect to affidavit to be filed by candidates in the upcoming elections. It says that all candidates are required to file an affidavit in the form 26 along with their nomination papers. So their affidavit will be filed along with their nomination paper. Further, the affidavits will include information on criminal antecedents of the candidate, if any, assets including movable, immovable properties and even investments in foreign countries, liabilities of the candidate, his or her spouse, as well as of their dependents and their educational qualifications. And as already mentioned, these candidates are also required to declare total income shown in the income tax return filed for the last 5 years for the candidate's spouse, HUF, that is Hindu Undivided Family, and for dependents. So again, this particular information becomes important from your prelims perspective with respect to declaration of assets by the candidate. and these declaration has to be filed in Form 26 along with the nomination paper. Now, another important aspect is with respect to those candidates who have criminal background, as not only the candidate have to furnish such information, but also the political parties who are setting up such candidates having criminal background must declare or must inform the citizens about their criminal background. It mentions that candidates with criminal antecedents or background are required to publish information in this regard in newspapers and through television channels on 3 occasions during the campaign period. So this becomes very important for those candidates having criminal background. That is, they have to publish such information in newspapers as well as TV channels on 3 occasions. Further, the political party that sets up such candidates having criminal background is also required to publish information about their criminal antecedents, both on its website and also in newspaper as well as television channel on 3 occasions. So this becomes a very significant development with respect to those candidates having criminal background. That is, they not only have to declare such information in the newspapers and TV channels, but also the political party which chooses such candidate also has to publish such information on their website along with publication in newspaper as well as TV channels for 3 occasions. So with respect to candidates having criminal backgrounds, please remember these aspects from your prelims point of view. Now, another important aspect is with respect to identification cards used during the elections. It says that photo voter slip shall be used for guidance but not as identity proof in polling station. And these photo voter slips are distributed by booth level officers. Further, it says that electors will be required to carry EPIC card, that is electoral photo identity card, or any of the 11 identity documents as notified by the election commissions. And these are those 11 documents as notified by the election commission. They include driving license, service identity cards with photos issued to employees by central or state governments, PSUs, and even public limited companies, passbook with photograph issued by bank or post office, PAN card, smart card issued under the scheme of Ministry of Labour, MG Narega job card, health insurance smart card issued under the Ministry of Labour, pension document with photograph, official identity cards issued to MPs, MLAs, MLCs, and Aadhaar card. So these are the 11 documents apart from EPIC card which can be used as identity proof while going for polling. Now, another important aspect is with respect to accounts of election expenses which is to be submitted by political parties. It says that all political parties who are sponsoring their candidates for the Lok Sabha as well as Legislative Assembly elections, they are required to maintain day-to-day accounts of all election campaign expenses and also submit these final accounts to the Commission or the Chief Electoral Officer of the Election Commission within 90 days or 75 days of the completion of Lok Sabha or Legislative Assembly election. So for Lok Sabha, they have to submit within 90 days, and for State Legislative Assembly, they have to submit within 75 days. Further, these accounts submitted by the political parties will also be uploaded on the website of the Election Commission for public viewing. So all these adds to the transparency aspect of conduct of elections. Further, these political parties also have to submit or file a part statement in addition to the final statement of election expenses. And this has to be submitted by the political party 30 days after declaration of results of election of Lok Sabha or legislative assemblies. Now, another important aspect highlighted by the Election Commission was with respect to guidelines on social media, as we have seen that all political parties have become very active on social media, and it also acts as a mode of campaign for their elections. So on this note, a very important aspect highlighted by the Election Commission is that all provisions of Model Code of Conduct shall also apply to the content being posted on social media by candidates and political parties. This becomes a very significant development with respect to application of Model Code of Conduct, even on the social media handled by the respective political parties. So on this note, the Election Commission has said that Candidates are also required to furnish details of their social media account at the time of filing of nomination. So, apart from the nomination details, they also have to submit their social media account in their nomination. Then, all political advertisement on social media will also require pre-certification from media certification and monitoring committees. So, this again become a very important aspect. So all expenditure on campaigning as well as expense on advertisement on social media has to be included in their election expenditure account, which has to be submitted to the election commission. Along with this, they also have to submit details with respect to lump sum amount or payments made to the internet companies and website for carrying out their advertisements, and also campaign related operational expenditure on making creative development of content, salaries, and even wages paid to the team of workers employed to maintain their social media account. So basically, these political parties also have to submit expense details of their IT cell to the Election Commission of India. So all these guidelines with respect to social media for the upcoming general election also becomes important, and all these were highlighted in yesterday's press conference. Further, these are some of the apps developed by the Election Commission of India which can be used by citizens, candidates, and even political parties. First is the C-Vigil app, which you all know is with respect to reporting electoral malpractices in any election. Further, there is a voter helpline mobile app which provides convenience to all citizens to find their names in the electoral roll, submitting their online forms, and even checking the status of their application. Further, there is a PWD app for persons with disabilities, as it helps such people for filing request of new registration, change in their address, change in particulars, and even mark themselves as PWD through the use of mobile application. Further, there is Suvidha Candidate app, which is available to track the status of nomination and status of their permissions request. Further, there is a Samadhan app, which is used by the Election Commission as a single integrated web portal for registering and resolving citizen information, suggestions, feedback, and even complaints. Next, there is a voter helpline contact center where a citizen can now call a universal toll-free helpline number of Election Commission of India, and the number is 1950 to connect directly with the district contact centers. So these are some of the facilities provided through the use of technology for the citizens of India with respect to any information about the election process. So in this news analysis, we have tried to highlight some of the very important aspects as highlighted yesterday by the Election Commission of India in its press conference. Now this particular question was asked in the year 2017. The question was, consider the following statements. Election Commission of India is a 5-member body. No, the statement is incorrect. It is a 3-member body. Second, Union Ministry of Home Affairs decides the election schedule for the conduct of both general elections and by-elections. No, it is the Election Commission of India. Third, Election Commission resolves the disputes relating to splits or mergers of recognized political parties. Yes, the statement is correct. So in this, D was the correct answer. Moving to the next question, it says, in the election for Lok Sabha or State Assembly, the winning candidate must get at least 50% of votes polled to be declared elected. No, the statement is incorrect, as any candidate has to just secure the maximum number of votes as compared to the other candidates. Second, according to the provisions laid down in the Constitution of India, in Lok Sabha, the Speaker's post goes to the majority party and the deputy speakers to the opposition. No, the statement is again incorrect. So in this, D is the correct answer. That is neither 1 nor 2. Now this particular question generated quite a lot of confusion. The question was, right to vote and to be elected in India is a. The confusion was with respect to constitutional right or a legal right. However, the answer provided by UPSC is C. That is, the correct answer is it's a constitutional right. So we see various questions have been asked by UPSC on conduct of elections. So on this note, all these aspects which we have just discussed become very important. With this, let's move on to our next news discussion. The next news appears on page number 9 in the data point. It talks about grading cleanliness, where it mentions about the Swachh Survekshan of 2019. Now, as per the report of Swachh Survekshan of 2019, urban local bodies in Chhattisgarh have been found to be the cleanest among all states, whereas Jharkhand and Maharashtra are the other two states in the top 3 category. whereas states which have secured three lowest scores were in Northeast, and West Bengal did not participate in the survey. Now, important point to be noted in this survey is that the survey grades each urban local body for a total of 5,000 marks, and this scoring system has four components. And these four components are collection of data from online MIS portal of Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, as well as online submission of documents to the dedicated Swachh Survekshan 2019 portal assessment of service level progress, collection of data from direct observation, collection of data from citizen feedback, and certifications for garbage free cities and open defecation free cities. And all these four components were allotted equal marks, that is 1250. Now, another important point to be highlighted is that as compared to last year, total marks with respect to this Swachh Survekshan of 2019 has been increased from 4,000 to 5,000. So, in the Swachh Survekshan of 2018, the marks allotted were 4,000, whereas this marks has been increased to 5,000 with respect to the survey. So when you compare Swachh Survekshan 2018 with that of 2019, we find that the 2018 survey comprised of total of 4,000 marks, whereas the Survekshan of 2019 comprises of total 5,000 marks. And in these, there were three components, that is service level progress, direct observation, and citizen feedback, where service level progress and citizen feedback accounted for 35% each and direct observation accounted for 30% each. But now the components have been increased to four, that is first is certification, then direct observation, then citizen feedback and service level progress, and all these have been allotted equal marks now. So as compared to last year, so this year it has four components and all those components have been allotted equal marks with respect to Swachh Survekshan of 2019. Now, how do these survey help? The primary goal of all Swachh Survekshans is to encourage large-scale citizen participation and to create awareness among all sections of the society about the importance of working together towards making towns and cities a better place to live in. Additionally, these surveys also intend to foster a spirit of healthy competition among cities and towns. And this also helps these cities and towns to improve their service delivery to citizens. So all these collectively and cumulatively help in not only creating awareness but also making the cities smarter as well as cleaner. Now this topic in your prelims examination gets covered under social development and your mains get covered under GS paper 2, specifically under social justice. So the award of India's cleanest city in the Swachh Survekshan 2019 has been awarded to Indore in Madhya Pradesh, whereas the cleanest states are Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand and Maharashtra, and the lowest ranking states are Meghalaya, Arunachal Pradesh and Assam. So this topic of Swachh Survekshan of 2019 becomes important from your prelims perspective. You must know about the four different components and also the fact that they carry equal points, and also the difference with respect to the Swachh Survekshan of 2018, which had three components as compared to the present of four components. So on this note, this topic becomes important from your pre-point of view. With this, let's move on to our next news discussion. India asked Saudi to invest in strategic oil storage, eyes resurrecting $44 billion refinery unit in Maharashtra. Now, as per the news, Indian government has invited Saudi Arabia to invest in its strategic petroleum storage, where the Saudi oil minister has discussed the details with his Indian counterpart on the 60 million ton a year oil refinery cum petrochemical complex. So this particular news on strategic oil storage becomes a part of economy in your prelims and in your mains gets covered under GS paper 3. The government of India has already built 5.33 million ton of emergency storage for oil reserves, and this oil reserve is enough to meet its oil needs or oil demands for 9.5 days. And these underground caverns are built in Mangalore and Padur in Karnataka and Vishakhapatnam in Andhra Pradesh. Now, this topic of strategic oil reserve has already been covered in the Focus magazine of December 2018 edition. So, let's go through some of the highlights as provided in the magazine. The then news was covered in the context of Abu Dhabi. It said that Abu Dhabi National Oil Company had signed a memorandum of understanding with the Indian Strategic Petroleum Reserves Limited to explore the possibility of storing Abu Dhabi National Oil Company's crude oil at ISPRL's underground storage facility at Padur in Karnataka. So on this note, you must know about Indian Strategic Petroleum Reserve Limited. It says that the Indian Strategic Petroleum Reserve is an emergency fuel storage maintained by the Indian Strategic Petroleum Reserves Limited, and this comes under the Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas. It further mentions that the crude oil storages are located at three places, namely Vishakhapatnam, Mangalore, and Padur, which we have just discussed. And these strategic oil reserves act as a cushion during any external supply disruptions. Further, it mentions that crude oil storages are constructed in underground rock caverns and are located on the east as well as the western coast of India. So these underground rock caverns are located on western coast as well as along the eastern coast of India. Crude oil from these caverns can be supplied to the Indian refineries either through pipelines or through a combination of pipelines and ships. Another important aspect highlighted in this edition was the fact that the International Energy Agency, that is IEA, mandates that the member should maintain emergency oil reserves equivalent to at least 90 days of net imports. So apart from the existing facility, the cabinet earlier had approved construction of an additional 6.5 million ton of strategic crude oil reserves at Chandi Khol in Odisha and Padur in Karnataka. So these facilities will together help to support 22 days of India's crude oil requirements, and Indian refiners also maintain 65 days of crude storage, taking the total tally to 87 days. So it is in this context that the government of India has invited Saudi Arabia to invest in its strategic petroleum storage. So all the information in these news discussed with respect to Indian Strategic Petroleum Reserves, which comes under the Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas, and the various places at which India's strategic petroleum reserves are located becomes important from your prelims point of view. These places are Vishakhapatnam, Mangalore, Padur, as well as a new place recently approved by the cabinet is in Chandi Khol in Odisha. So on this note, this topic becomes important from your pre-point of view. With this, let's move on to our next news discussion. The next news appears on page number 5. The news says Karnataka set to tap the clouds yet again. Now in this news, Karnataka is adopting cloud seeding project named Project Varshadhare for enhancement of monsoon rainfall in 2019 as well as 2020. So Project Varshadhare is a cloud seeding project. Now this topic in your prelims examination gets covered under general science as well as issues on environment, and in your mains gets covered under GS paper 3. Now the state government of Karnataka had launched Project Varshadhare in the year 2017, which is a cloud seeding project in order to enhance rainfall in drought hit areas of North Karnataka. Now inspired by the success of Project Varshadhare in the year 2017, the Karnataka government is again adopting cloud seeding project for enhancement of monsoon rainfall in the year 2019 as well as for the year 2020. On this note, let us understand the concept of artificial rain by cloud seeding. Now it mentions that cloud seeding is the process of augmenting the process of precipitation by manipulating the size of condensation nuclei. So in this entire concept of artificial rain, the most important role is played by condensation nuclei. Now these condensation nuclei are tiny particles in the air that provide surface area for water vapor to condense onto. So effectively these condensation nuclei are tiny suspended particles in the atmosphere which can be either solid or liquid, upon which the condensation of water vapor begins. So it says that cloud seeding is the process of augmenting or enhancing the process of precipitation by manipulating the size of condensation nuclei. So in this process of cloud seeding, the size of this condensation nuclei is manipulated. It says that in this process, substances capable of absorbing water vapor such as silver iodide, sodium chloride, potassium chloride, and even dry ice, which is also known as solid carbon dioxide, are sprayed in the clouds using an aircraft or artillery gun. Why these substances are used? Because these substances are hygroscopic or are capable of absorbing more moisture. So it says that silver iodide or other artificial salts are hygroscopic and hence are capable to absorb more moisture. So this absorption of more moisture with the help of these artificial salts, it further helps in the process of condensation of water vapor around these nuclei. So it says that this catalyzes the growth of condensation nuclei, which in turn results in enhanced precipitation or enhanced rainfall. So this is the entire process with respect to artificial rain with the help of cloud seeding. So from a prelims perspective, you must understand this concept of artificial rain and the different substances used to increase the size of condensation nuclei, which are silver iodide, sodium chloride, potassium chloride, and even dry ice. So this topic becomes important from your prelims perspective. In this news, you must remember about the concept of cloud seeding as well as Project Varshadhare, which is a project of Government of Karnataka. With this, let's move on to the next news discussion. The next news appears on page number 14. The news reads, Wind loses energy as policy paralysis blows through this renewable sector. This article highlights that the capacity addition in wind energy has lost steam because of various policy constraints. Now this topic in your mains examination gets covered under GS paper 3 as well as environment and also under Indian economy. And your prelims gets covered under environment as well as economy. Now this news mentions that India has set an ambitious target of achieving 175 gigawatt of renewable energy capacity by the year 2022. This includes 100 gigawatt from solar power, 60 gigawatt from wind power, 10 gigawatt from biopower, and 5 gigawatt from small hydropower. Further, India has also planned to have 40% of the installed power generation capacity to be based on clean sources. And as of now, this installed capacity for clean sources is around 21%. So in this regard, generation of electricity from wind energy is of utmost importance. Despite the importance of wind energy in production of electricity, wind energy capacity addition has declined from 5,500 megawatt in 2016-17 to 1,600 megawatt in 2018-19. Presently, wind energy accounts for 35,000 megawatt in electricity generation out of 74,000 megawatt from total renewable energy. So it is in this backdrop, let us understand various policy constraints which are hampering the growth of wind energy in India. Now in India, there are 8 states where it is economically viable to put up wind turbines. These states are Tamil Nadu, Gujarat, Karnataka, Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh, Andhra Pradesh, Rajasthan and Telangana. Now for about 2 decades, wind energy firms would erect the turbines at chosen sites in a particular state, and then they used to sell power to the electricity supply companies, and this power was sold at a fixed price called feed-in tariffs, which was decided by the respective state electricity regulators. Now this scheme worked fine because the developer would get the FIT, that is feed-in tariffs, for the entire power purchase agreement period, which was typically for 25 years. So this concept worked fine if electricity was to be distributed in the same state in which the turbines were set up. However, with respect to change of state for supply of electricity, this mechanism started having constraints. Now there was a need to expand the wind market to different states, but there were problems being faced with respect to supply of electricity from one state to another. Basically, from one state where such turbines were located to other states where the electricity had to be supplied. So in order to solve this particular problem, the Government of India constituted Solar Energy Corporation of India, and this helped in buying power from the developer and it helped to sell to other states. Hence, SCI purchased electricity generated through these wind turbines located in one state and supplied the same electricity to other states. Now the developers started offering to sell electricity at low prices, and for this they were ready to sign power purchase agreements at low cost. Now this began the shift from fixed feed-in tariffs to the market determined tariffs. This effectively led to great competition to sign power purchase agreement at low cost. It says that due to this competition, developers offered to sell electricity at prices as low as rupees 3.46 a kilowatt per hour, in contrast to the FIT, that is feed-in prices, which was fixed at rupees 4.16 a Tamil Nadu. So we also notice fluctuation of prices with respect to change of mechanism. It says that this mechanism has led to two problems. Firstly, with respect to this lower prices, the profit margin of these wind developer companies have declined. And secondly, there's also growing risk that the state governments may backtrack on these power purchase agreements which have been earlier signed by these wind developer companies. So these are the real issues which are hampering the growth of wind energy market in India. So, in order to get a better margin, the developers of wind energy started flocking to two particular windiest states of India, namely Gujarat and Tamil Nadu. So, the problem was that power was being generated at these windy states, but the distribution or supply of power was to non windy states. Because of this problem, Gujarat stopped giving land to set up wind turbine in the state and also forced wind developers to set up their projects in specified wind parks. And because these specified wind parks are not necessarily at the best sites for wind projects, the developers did not like the policy of the government. And because of all these aspects, the project started getting delayed. So, considering all these constraints in mind, it becomes imperative to ask whether India can afford to achieve its target with respect to 175 gigawatt of renewable energy by the year 2022. So we understand that this topic becomes important primarily from our mains perspective with respect to development of wind energy in India. Now after a discussion, these forms your practice question for the day. What you can do is to take a pause of 5 seconds. The question says, with reference to cloud seeding, which of the following statements are correct? First, silver iodide and other artificial salts increases the temperature of the air so that it can absorb more moisture. No, this statement is incorrect, as silver iodide or other artificial salts, it catalyzes the condensation nuclei but does not increase the temperature of the air. Second statement says, moisture laden cloud is a prerequisite to this technique. Yes, this statement is correct. So in this, B is the correct answer, that is 2 only. Now this question says, with reference to Swachh Survekshan of 2019, which of the following statements are correct? First, as per the Survekshan report, Raipur has emerged as the cleanest city in India. No, the statement is incorrect as it is Indore. Second, it has added a new assessment parameter of certifying garbage-free cities. Yes, the statement is correct as the Survekshan of 2018 had 3 parameters and the Survekshan of 2019 has 4 parameters. So effectively it has added 1 more parameter. So in this again B is the correct answer, that is 2 only. Now these two also forms your other practice questions. What you can do is to take a pause of 5 seconds. It says, consider the following statements relating to renewable energy power generation in India. First, the renewable energy presently accounts for more than 25% of the electricity generation in India. Second, among the various renewable energy sources, the solar energy accounts for highest share. As you can see, a total of around 73.35 gigawatt of renewable energy capacity has been installed in the country as on October 2018 from all renewable energy sources, which includes 34.98 gigawatt from wind, 24.33 gigawatt from solar, and 4.5 gigawatt from small hydropower. So on this note, the second statement becomes incorrect because it's not solar energy but rather wind energy which accounts for the highest share. Now renewable energy presently accounts for roughly around 21% and not more than 25% of electricity generation in India. So on this note, both statements are incorrect. So here D is the correct answer. Now the second question says, strategic petroleum reserves is situated in Visakhapatnam, Padur, Mangalore, Pune. We have studied that it is situated in Visakhapatnam, Padur and Mangalore. So in this, the correct answer is 1, 2 and 3. So here again, D is the correct answer. With this, we come to an end to discussion of today's newspaper. Let's move on to the question for the day.